Before we continue with the analysis, I want to talk to you guys about JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that's the latest home shirts, the latest away shirts, tracksuits, or even retro kits, Jersey FIFA has a bit of everything. There really is something for everyone, so if you are interested, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and head to JerseyFIFA.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are getting straight into things, talking about Harry Kane to Manchester United. Should it happen? Could it happen? Will it happen? Most importantly, should Manchester United try and make this happen in the summer? Now, we can just get straight into this one because we all know a lot about Harry Kane, 29 years old, over 6 foot tall, not long left on his contract with Spurs. This could be a signing which takes United to that next level. At the moment, they kind of lack a goal scorer. We know that Harry Kane, if signed for the club, would address that issue. Harry Kane is one of the greatest goal scorers we have ever seen in football, especially in the Premier League currently. At the time of recording, 200 goals in the Premier League. This guy is just a very, very special goal scorer. He could well go on to break Alan Shearer's record for goals in the Premier League. If he can stay fit for the next few seasons, it's very likely that he will break those records. So, this is why, obviously, Manchester United fans kind of want him, because he's a very, very good goal scorer. However, what we're going to see in this video is that he's more than that as well. He's a good goal scorer, but he's a very complete player. And actually, kind of his completeness as a player is sort of summed up in his goals as well, if you know what I mean. Here we can see that yes, he scored 121 goals with his right foot in the Premier League, that is his stronger foot. However, he also has 40 goals with his left foot and 37 goals with his head, with his noggin. 37 headed goals in the Premier League. So, instantly we can see that yes, he is right-footed, but even in the sense of how he's scoring goals, he's very complete, and that's kind of a good indicator of what we'll see in the rest of the video. This is a guy that can do a bit of everything. For me, probably the most complete centre-forward in the game, apart from maybe Benzema at Real Madrid. This guy is very, very special. And we can see that in his EpiRef report. If we look at those numbers at the top there, instantly ranking very well in all of those metrics. But also we can come further down, see him ranking well for progressive passes, progressive carries, successful take-ons. All of this in a Spurs team, which isn't necessarily that great. They're not a possession-based team. They don't keep the ball a lot. They're not a kind of Pep Guardiola model of team. Antonio Conte does things very, very differently. However, even in a team which potentially doesn't have as much of the ball, Harry Kane still has very good attacking output. And that's kind of been the case at Spurs for a few years now. The last few years they haven't played very good football, but Kane has still scored this high volume of goals. So again, that is a credit to him as a player. And I think the thing which really interests a lot of people is his passing ability. This guy's passing is like a midfielder, like a quarterback at times. His passes completed in terms of long passes, the 96th percentile, 95th percentile for passes attempted, assists 84th percentile, key passes 89th percentile, passes into the final third 98th percentile, passes into the penalty area 91st percentile, and crosses into the penalty area 88th percentile. Now, it's important to acknowledge the fact that a lot of these passes come on the counter-attack. So let's say he was to sign for Manchester United, Harry Kane wants to play on the counter, and I think this is what a lot of people talk about in the past 3 years of Harry Kane. When we talk about Harry Kane and what he's good at, we are very much talking about dropping deep, getting the ball, turning, and then playing the ball forward, setting off players like Son on the wing. So, how would that work at Manchester United? Well, I'll be honest, quite nicely. What are United very good at this season? Counter-attacking, with Martial dropping deep, or Weghorst holding the ball up, playing the ball short into someone like Bruno Fernandes, and then going long in behind to Marcus Rashford, who we know is a brilliant runner, but also Antony on the other side, who can be good on a counter-attack as well. The good thing about signing Harry Kane is you can actually speed up the whole process. Because at the moment, Martial is a good link player, he's good at holding the ball up and then laying it off to someone else. Weghorst is good at playing a little first-time lay-off to someone. Harry Kane doesn't need to lay it off to someone else, because he can do it himself. So if we look at these passing numbers, on a counter-attack, he doesn't need to lay it off to someone like Bruno Fernandes to then play the ball in behind. Harry Kane is very capable of getting the ball turning and doing it himself. And I think the reason he's so good at it is actually very underestimated. Firstly, it's the way that he receives the ball with his body open. If you compare it to other strikers in the league, let's talk someone like Erling Haaland, who's struggling with it a bit at the moment. He receives the ball with his back to goal, which means you're limiting where you can play. You kind of got to go backwards or sideways. Harry Kane receives much more kind of side on the half turn a little bit, which means he now has the ability to turn and play forward, which is exactly what Manchester United need for the way that they want to counter-attack. Also, his strength, his upper body strength in these positions is remarkable. Again, I think it's something which is really, really underappreciated. But his ability to drop in and kind of mix it with some of the most physical centre-backs, but also holding midfielders in the Premier League, he just shrugs them off like they're nothing a lot of the time. And that's what allows him to get that yard of space to then play these ridiculous passes. And kind of as a Manchester United fan, the idea of seeing Harry Kane drop into this position and then freeing someone like Marcus Rashford, with Bruno Fernandes also being a runner, that looks like a really, really promising prospect. The idea of Kane and Rashford linking up is quite dreamy. It's something that, to be honest, I can't believe we haven't seen it for England more, because it is so similar to how Kane does things with Son, which we know is one of the best duos in Premier League history. The fact that England haven't recreated it is quite shocking. The idea that United could is very, very exciting. As well as dropping deep and playing these passes in behind, Kane also offers a different threat on the counter-attack. Now, unlike perhaps someone like Jamie Vardy, for example, he isn't a player who's going to play on the shoulder and get in behind the defence. It's not really what he's good at. It's never been his strength, pace, although even still, he used to be quicker than what he is now. He has lost some of that, so he isn't a player that wants to go in behind the centre-backs. However, what he's good at is detecting space. And what do we know that a lot of teams do in the Premier League at the moment? Push their fullbacks further forward or inverted. Which means Kane knows that the space is out wide, so we can often see Kane peeling to the right wing. And again, this could work with United on the counter-attack. Kane making this run in behind, it then allows Antony to come inside onto his stronger left foot, Rashford to be the runner off the ball, and then again, we know that Kane's delivery into the box is very, very impressive. Again, it's like a midfielder. At times when Kane gets the ball in these areas, it's like watching De Bruyne whip across it. And it is reflected in his EpiRef report, which we were looking at earlier. Crosses into the penalty area, amongst strikers in Europe in the past year, 88th percentile. So, yes, he wants to drop deep in the middle here and link the play with passes in behind the defence. Of course, that is probably his biggest strength as a kind of centre-forward role. However, he is very, very capable of getting into these areas. And then again, United have players that are willing to run off the ball. Marcus Rashford, but also Bruno Fernandes is also keen to make the ground up. This could take United to the next level in a counter-attacking sense, because Kane, for me, is the best counter-attacking striker in the world. Yes, he doesn't offer that run in behind the defence, in behind centre-backs in the way which some other players, potentially Victor Osimhen, do. However, his ability to firstly hold the ball up for his side, be a target to get out from the press, you can go long to Harry Kane and play like that, but also his ability to turn that, just from a possession point of view, sustaining possession. Harry Kane has that ability, the strength on the turn, but then the passing range to turn it into a lethal counter-attack. And like I said earlier, United's one of their best attributes this season is their transitioning football. That suits Harry Kane almost perfectly. I think with Kane playing for Manchester United potentially, another thing that is very important to talk about is what would he offer in sustained possession. So yes, United at the moment have a lot of counter-attacking situations, which Kane would be very suited to. However, I think moving forward in the long term, Ten Hag wants United to be more controlled, which means more possession, more control of the ball, but that does probably reduce your chances of transition. So the question is, what does Harry Kane bring to a possession-based side, basically? And actually, this is a bit more of a tricky question to answer. So with Spurs, what do we see? When Spurs play the big teams, Manchester City, Arsenal, Manchester United, they sit in a mid-block or a low block, they pounce, they counter-attack, Harry Kane comes to life. We don't very often see Spurs dominating the ball, particularly in big games. We don't see Spurs dominating possession, and we haven't for a few years, under, of course, Conte, but also previously under Mourinho. They are coaches that want to try and play in transition. So for the past few seasons, we haven't seen as much of Kane in a possession-based side. The time that we have seen him in a possession side is for England, where you could argue England haven't got the best out of him. We haven't seen Kane getting lots of chances for England. A lot of his goals in tournaments have been from things like penalties. So, what would he bring to a possession-based side? Well, like I said, it's quite a tricky question to answer. What we've seen for England, though, is a player that gets starved of possession. However, what is important to acknowledge is that from a tactical point of view, in terms of developing patterns, attacking patterns in the final third, and developing an elite possession system, Ten Hag and Gareth Southgate are night and day. They're very, very different managers. Ten Hag is much more front-footed and wants to get players in and around Harry Kane. So if he was to join the club, I think he would have a lot more success than what he does with England, but also he would be able to develop different habits. So the habit that he's got for England a bit in the moment is players like Mason Mount don't really create enough chances for him, so he will often come shorter in the search of a touch, basically. He gets a bit bored almost, it seems at times, so he comes a bit deeper to try and get a touch on the ball, then plays it wide, but the problem is, say if England get the ball to someone like Marcus Rashford or Luke Shaw, he's not there in the box to hit the target man. So I think that is something that United would need to kind of re-coach out of him. But I think it's very possible to do that. In his earlier days in his career at Spurs, when he first really broke onto the scene, this wasn't a player that wanted to drop deep and link the play with his passing like he does now. He was more of a box presence. So I think United could redevelop that. And I think Kane would be happy to do it to an extent, because he won't be so desperate for touches, because he'll be in a better possession side. So let me just try and make that clear again. So England aren't great at creating chances, so Kane drops deeper to try and get the ball. If he was to play for Manchester United, he would play in a side which is better in possession, which creates better chances. So I think he'd be happy playing a little bit higher, playing up against the centre-backs, pressing up against them, because at the end of the day, he's a striker. He scored 200 goals in the Premier League, maybe more by the time this is released. He knows where the goals come from, and ultimately that is in and around the penalty area. Yes, he does have a brilliant long shot on him, but most of his goals come from inside the penalty area, where his movement is very, very impressive. And yes, he's lost that yard of pace which he used to have on centre-backs. He doesn't have that anymore. But what he does have is extreme intelligence. And what I personally like is the way that he is always on the blind side of a defender. So the second the defender switches to look at the ball rather than Harry Kane, that's when Kane makes his movement. So that can be on the shoulder, despite having a lack of pace, that can be on the shoulder in a position like this, where he will, say if the centre-back's narrow like this, he will make a run in behind here for someone like Bruno Fernandes, or in the past it has been Christian Eriksen at Spurs, players like that, sliding balls in behind the defence for Kane to quickly get a shot off. And again, that is where Harry Kane is really impressive. Sometimes he wants to take 2 or 3 touches to get the ball out of his feet, carry the ball, stride forward with the ball and then strike it, but he is also very capable of swivelling, hitting a ball first time. In these situations, he's very good at letting the ball run across his body, then getting the shot off first time. He can do it on his right foot, he can do it on his left foot. Really, just probably the most complete striker in the game. And also, what would be good for United is that, again, I think he could be coached to be a bit more of a box presence at times, play on the shoulder, play on the last man, but also be an option for crosses as well. So when Anthony's getting the ball in these areas, when Luke Shaw's getting it in these slightly deeper positions, crosses into the penalty area. It's something that for me we still don't see enough of at Manchester United, but if you could bring in a striker which has scored 37 headed goals in his Premier League career, you're offering a real threat. I can't really put into words how impressive 37 headed Premier League goals is in a side which doesn't actually have that much possession, so therefore doesn't exactly spam crosses into the box. This is really, really impressive from Harry Kane, and like I said, for me, I think he's the complete striker. In terms of further breakdown, it's kind of a little bit difficult to talk about Harry Kane and fit it into one video, because, like I keep saying, he is complete. He can do a bit of everything. Probably his weakness stylistically is a lack of pace, so he isn't a player, again, like a Victor Osimhen, who's going to bully a defender with his physicality and his speed, getting in behind a defence. But apart from that, Harry Kane has everything, so to sit here and talk about it all would take hours. But I think the key points that I want to really you guys to take away from this video is that if he was signed for Manchester United, he would drastically improve the ability on the counter-attack. That ability, firstly, to drop deep, get the ball, turn, play it to a runner like Marcus Rashford, but also the ability to peel into that wide right channel, an area where United currently, the counter-attacks do slow down a little bit, with Antony maybe slowing it down a bit too much at times. Kane getting into that position and then fizzing crosses, whipping them across the box for Marcus Rashford to get onto, would drastically improve United's ability on the counter-attack. However, also, I think he offers something different to a possession side as well. I do think he can play as a bit more of a number 9 in that sort of system, where he plays a bit more on the shoulder of the defender, he's getting on the blind side, getting those snapshots off when the ball comes into the box, but also that box presence to hit with crosses into the box, where, again, his headed record is brilliant. Harry Kane would offer something completely different to United, and importantly, what he offers is just a ton of goals. A goal scorer. United haven't had a proper goal scorer at the club. I'm not really sure the last one they had at a good stage in their career. Obviously Ronaldo last season, but United were just horrible last season. It was almost a write-off. United haven't had a goal scorer in a good structured system probably since Robin van Persie. So this would take United to another level. And we know what happened that season with Van Persie. Manchester United won the Premier League. That is the sort of effect someone like Harry Kane can have. Someone who can get you 30 goals in a season. It's something that United haven't had for a long time. So if he was to come in, he really could take the team to the next level. However, there is one issue, and it is this injury record. Harry Kane, particularly his ankle, not a great combination. We can see down the bottom there, 11 games missed with an ankle injury, then 3 games, then 2 games, then 8 games, then 2 games, then 2 games. it's not great. However, he did go all of last season without any significant injuries, and so far this season he hasn't been injured, so maybe he's passed that a little bit. Maybe he has strengthened that ankle. He is coming up to 2 years since an injury. We will have to wait and see. However, for me, overall, Harry Kane, the best striker in the world, apart from maybe Benzema. That's certainly the top two in my opinion. So complete. So complete, could do a little bit of everything. And for that reason, I think he's the perfect Erik ten Hag striker. But, as always, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Should Manchester United sign Harry Kane? Or is he too old perhaps? Is he a bit too injury prone? Let me know what you think. In my opinion, I think from a tactical point of view, he would bring so much to this side. I would really strongly be considering it. In the summer, he'll have 1 year left on his contract, so you can maybe have a look at him and get him a little bit cheaper than what he typically would be. Probably still £70 million, but it's what United paid for Casemiro. Everyone said he was too old. Look what's happened there. I would really be considering this if I was Manchester United, if I was Erik ten Hag. But again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And also, while you're here, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 12,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you guys could help with that, that would be massively appreciated. But that's all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.